Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Across the Bifrost. I'm Jamie. I've managed to get rid of Norbert for an episode, thank God. And I am joined by the lovely Sam, creator of Longshanks. Hey, Sam.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Hello. It's a pleasure. I thought I'd get you on just to talk about, just how cool Longshanks is, really, and what it brings to the game. Before we get into that, though, you have a really cool job that I have to ask you questions about, because I heard you talk about it previously on Dr. Norbert's YouTube channel. What are you up to at the moment? What are you inventing?
So I actually can't talk about super specifics about what I'm inventing, but I work for... my training and my past experience is in nerve stimulation devices. So we're talking about implantable stuff that talks to the nervous system. The company I work for makes nerve stimulators. Basically what we do, we're a nonprofit organization, and we do development in-house. And then when we get a product that's close to being ready for commercial release or public use, then we'll start sort of courting big companies and finding somebody who wants to buy it, and then they'll take it the last step, which is large scale manufacturing, that sort of thing. Which that kind of arrangement is pretty nice, because it means that we don't have to worry about all that stuff. We just worry about the cool part, which is developing and designing and doing lots of R&D. So that's kind of what I do, is R&D for implantable medical devices.
Oh yeah, nice, cool. Sounds good. It sounds like one tiny step closer to cyborgs. So I'm into it.
Yeah, that's kind of why I got into it, actually.
Yeah, I bet. Who's your favorite cyborg?
Oh man, probably Forlom.
Forlom? Who's that?
the guy from the guy from Empire Strikes Back on Cloud City, who's got the isn't that Forlom? I think that's Forlom. Anyway, I'm thinking of the guy that's got the thing around the back of his head that covers up his ears. He's like Lando's assistant.
Forlom is like a droid.
Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong guy then. I went too niche for myself.
Yeah. Lobot. You're thinking Lobot.
That's it. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Lobot. Because I think he's in Shatterpoint, actually. I think he's a character in Shatterpoint, which is crazy.
Of course he is. Yeah, every obscure character in Star Wars has a huge backstory, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone. There you go. Lobot. Okay, good cyborg. Solid cyborg. All right, sweet. Well, let's talk about the work you're doing that is actually advancing humanity in Longshanks. So I didn't realize, I learned this recently, that MCP was added to Longshanks before 40K was.
Correct.
That's pretty cool. I'm gonna take that as like a point of pride, I think. How big is MCP now on Longshanks? Is it stacking up all right?
Well, it's the biggest in every way that you could measure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the most games per year, games per month. I don't think a game has had more. A game system hasn't had more reported games than MCP in, I doubt, since MCP was added. So it's definitely the biggest. A couple years ago, it became the biggest ever. Even if you add up all the games across all of time, it surpassed Guild Ball, which had a 4-year head start.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. So I guess, you were pretty early to adopt MCP, right? In MCP's life. So I guess that's what it is kind of from day one, maybe, would you say, that people have been using Longshanks to host their tournaments on?
Not quite day one, but it was pretty soon. MCP, I think, officially released in the end of 2019. But a lot of people didn't get their hands on it until sometime in 2020. And that was when, a little bit more backstory, Longshanks was started to manage Guild Ball events, and it did nothing else for several years. And then in 2020, Steamforged Games decided to shut down Guild Ball and stop publishing it. And a lot of the people that I knew the best from Guild Ball days decided to move on to MCP. And so I started, playing with those guys. And as Guild Ball died, and really during 2020, a lot of tabletop gaming sort of died, I decided that if Longshanks was going to continue, it needed to have other games. It couldn't rely on just one. And MCP was the first one I wanted to add. So Unofficially, or sort of on the back end, it was added in late 2020. And then it became public when I sort of unlocked the whole multi-game system in the middle of 2021. And that, I think the first three was, it was MCP and Malifaux. And I want to say there was one other one, but it might have been X-Wing. I think it was X-Wing was the other one that released right away. So yeah, 40K was actually added quite a bit later. And the main reason is 40K players use a couple of other systems, and now officially Games Workshop supports Best Coast pairings. So they have some sort of business relationship between the two companies. So I hesitated adding it for a long time because I just didn't figure people would use it. And eventually I was talked into it, and it gets used a little bit, but not a lot.
Okay, fair. I guess that's kind of the thing with some of the older game systems. They've established themselves and how they run tournaments, but MCP is kind of being newer, more modern. Yeah, I guess it's more open, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you mentioned there's loads of games on there. That means there's a ton of stats, which is I want to get into. The real meat of this episode now is talking about the stats. I don't know if Norbert's told you in the past, but it's become a tradition now. Whenever we travel anywhere for any tournament, we have the train home. We have the Longshanks quiz. Which is we look at the stats of every event, because you have some amazing stats that can be shown, especially if you subscribe, right? You get access to more stats and more interesting numbers, and we'll be like, who was the most played affiliation and what was the most taken team's tactics card, and it generates loads of really interesting discussion. So that's really fun. It's kind of become part of the journey now is reading the Longshanks on the way back.
Okay, that's cool.
It's real cool, yeah. So I wanted to get into leaderboards to start with then. So without getting into the algorithm, in fact, I should mention that there's a YouTube video on Dr. Norbert's channel that goes into kind of the maths behind it and how you figure out a strength of schedule and stuff. What do you feel kind of leaderboards bring to the game as a whole? Why are they included?
That's a good question. And that's one that has come up a bunch over the years, and people have argued about, and sometimes they argue about it with me. Usually they argue about it with themselves. I think that having something like a leaderboard, having competitive aspects to a game, even for the people who aren't competitive or who don't, people that don't show up to a tournament ever, they still like to follow what's happening competitively. If you're into football, even if you've never have any hope of playing professional football, you probably watch professional football. People like seeing what the top tier of whatever thing they're interested in is up to. And the best example I can have of that in tabletop gaming is Magic. I mean, you can point just about any topic related to tabletop gaming. You point at some aspect of Magic and find a good example. But things like the Pro Tour and Grand Prix, and I know I'm using old terminology. I don't think they use those words anymore. But that's kind of the world I grew up in. But just the existence of those. I mean, I remember when I was 8, 9 years old, and we'd buy the gold bordered world championship decks. So you could buy the deck that the world champion or the second place or the third place or whatever played.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And that kind of thing where you can get excited about a game, even if you could be trash at it, but you can get excited about it by seeing what is the world champion doing. Or what is the national champion doing? Or what watching? I mean, people like to watch streams of big high end games, and I think that having a global ranking or a national ranking adds to that, especially if people can see themselves on it. If you can see that I'm 75th in the world in MCP, even if it's not a perfect measurement, because all these algorithms that people might use have flaws and quirks, and they're based on imperfect information. But if the algorithm on Longshanks says that you're 75th, you're probably in the 50 to 100 range by anybody's math system that they wanted to use. I think that having some kind of competitive tracking adds a lot to a game community, even for the people who don't have any kind of a competitive bone in their body.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. I noticed something started happening probably 2 years ago now. and I love it. It's when a few of us go to an event, an MCP event, we travel away. The rest of the community, the London community is quite big for MCPs, probably, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 active players at once. And the rest will ask for the Longshanks link so they can follow along at home. And it's literally you're watching a football team play. And some people, we had a team tournament where there was a buy round, and the team that had the buy round went to the pub, went for some food, and they were watching the results come in on Longshanks. Literally, it's just football. You're just watching football. So yeah, I think that's really cool. It definitely brings that aspect to it. And yeah, you're right. I don't think that you need to be competitive to necessarily care about your rank. But I do think it brings a lot to communities, and that's kind of why I wanted to get you on, really. I think it's great for community, especially because you can filter these leaderboards, right? So you can filter by your local community and see, oh, okay, well, I might be the 400th best X-Men player in the world, but I'm like third best in London. That's kind of cool. And I think it adds an extra layer of fun to the game.
Yeah. A big part of the when I was tuning the algorithm, trying to figure out what was the ranking algorithm that made the most sense to me, that I thought gave the best output. And the reason that I use something that is a little unusual, I know lots of people in gaming are used to various flavors of ELO and things like that. The reason I use the algorithm I do is because it gave me the results in early testing that I thought were the most relevant. And the thing that bugged me about there was a previous Guild Ball ranking system before Longshanks existed that I didn't think worked the way that I thought it should. It was put together really well, and the guy that ran it he's actually a really nice guy. We became friends after a while, but it was missing something. And the way that they ranked people was by their performance at events. And if you got in like the top 4 at an event, you would get points for that. And they would look at your best events, and you say, okay, you were second at this event, third at this event, and first at this other event, so that puts you in this place. Yeah. But I thought, well, what about the people that don't get to go to big events very often, or people who happen to go to the same events as other really good people? If you happen to have the top 3 players in the world in your local meta, then you're going to be at least 4th in every event, and then maybe you'll never get any points. So I started looking at that as giving people credit not just for how often they win, but for how difficult their games are. So, and you do that by looking at, okay, who is your opponent? How skilled is your opponent? And so that's what the ranking system that I use, it does that. It attempts to get a sense of not just how often you win your games, but how hard those games are. And some of this was kind of personal for me, because I did have probably 3 or 4 of the top 10 Guild Ball players in the world who played at my weekly game night. And so I figured, well, I never do well in events, but I know that I get a lot of games against some really, really skilled opponents. So I thought a ranking algorithm should reflect that. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. Because, I'm exactly the same. I'm in London and Pat Dunford plays here. So I can never win events. I'm constantly coming like third. I'm currently on a streak of coming third at events. So, I get that. But,
Speaking of that,
I really sorry, go on.
No, I was speaking of that. I want to pull up something that I'm going to read to you, because it's something that happened just today. So we have the user request page on Longshanks where people can submit ideas or things that they'd like to be different.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that actually. Yeah. How can people? Can we get some, before we go on? Can we get some directions to that page? Because so many people don't know that exists. The user request part of the thing.
Yeah, so it's one of the links that goes way down at the bottom of the page. It's not, because it's something that people don't need when they're running an event or trying to attend an event or something. So it's not one of the big main links. But if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of any page, it's under the tools and resources section. And second item in that list. So it's user requests. And if you click on there's a whole bunch. I think there's like 100 different requests up on the page right now. And you can vote on them. So you can say, yeah, I think that's a good idea, or I don't think that's a good idea, or I don't care. And if there's something that you want added to the site or changed about the site, you can submit those ideas. And I have to approve them, because I want to make sure that there's not just junk. But most of them get approved, and because it's fun for me to see what people care about. But I mentioned this because just today, right before we started talking, I was looking through new requests to see what needs to be approved. And I'm just going to read this one to you, because speaking of Pat Dunford. So the title of the request is Longshanks badge for beating Pat Dunford.
Yeah, we talked about this. We talked about this the other day. I can't believe someone put it in as an actual request.
And so the text is, Pat is too good at this game. The community as a whole needs more incentive to beat him. Please create badges that give achievements for beating someone in a rated tournament who themselves has a 10+ game win streak. It goes on to have an actually pretty good idea and something that I
That's
probably
actually cool,
will
yeah.
implement. But I just love how it starts off with, I want this award because I want a goal for beating Pat Dunford.
Yeah. It is a weird thing in the London community. People here remember when they beat Pat. Pat has no idea. He can't remember any of these games, but they remember that they beat him 3 years ago. So if they could get a little Longshanks badge, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Sweet. Well, yeah, since we're in the user request section then, I've been badgering people for months to vote for my user request that's in there for sub-faction badges. And I definitely have to bring it up on this podcast. I'm sorry, because I've got you trapped now and you can't escape me. But I really want badges. We currently have best in affiliation badges, so best X-Men player, best Hellfire player, whatever, but we don't have it broken down into leaders. So my request was, can we get like best Cyclops player, best Sin player and stuff like that?
Right. And that's a fairly popular request. You're not the first person, and I'm sure you won't be the last person to ask for it.
Yeah.
It's there's some technical reasons why it's a little difficult. The number of things that we have to track just grows by a lot. There's somewhere between 1 and 5 leaders for each affiliation in MCP.
Yeah.
And the one thing that is maybe a little bit non-obvious for people who only play one game that's run on Longshanks is that whatever I add almost always has to apply to other game systems. Mm-hmm. So the best example I can give of why doing what would be affiliation badges or affiliation leader badges in MCP is in Malifaux, where every affiliation, their factions, has I think 16 masters.
Oh wow! Yeah, okay.
And so the number of awards would just be gigantic, and that both becomes kind of just cumbersome. People don't play the same one often enough to maybe really earn the badges. So that gets kind of awkward. But also it becomes a lot for the system to track. Mm-hmm. So it's acknowledged that that's a common request, but there's some back end reasons why it's not already up. I will tell you though that a few months ago I made a couple of changes to how we do the calculations for how we store ranking data and things like that. And as part of that, I did build in some features that will make doing affiliation leader awards easier. So I did some of the pre-work. And if that request gets high enough, then I'll do it. Then I'll push it the rest of the way.
Oh, there you go. You heard it here first, guys. Yeah. I recommend going through that user request because there's lots of really, really great stuff in there that I vote for, especially as a TO. Those are really useful tools in the request section, and I voted on some stuff that has then been implemented. So, it's great. So I recommend if you use Longshanks enough, scroll down to the bottom, go to the user request section, and vote on my request first. And then vote on the other ones that you want. Because getting a Cyclops badge would be pretty cool. Speaking of badges then, I actually want to thank you because last year I went full sweat, full try hard on MCP and did as best I could and did okay at some tournaments last year. And got to the new year and was like, oh my God, I need a bit of a break. I need a breather. That was too much. There's too much stress. There's too much pressure. So I started badge collecting. So I gave myself a kind of New Year's resolution. This is my goal for this year, is I'm going to try and get the, I think they're called Zealot badges. So a Zealot badge is when you get 50 games with an affiliation in MCP. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to collect all of the mutant-related Zealot badges throughout the year. So I just got Sentinel. Yeah. So I started with X-Men, already had that. I got Brotherhood. Then I got Hellfire, just got Sentinels. And now I'm working through X-Horse and Weapon X.
That's a big goal. That's a lot of games.
It's a lofty goal. Yeah, it's a lot of events. Thankfully, I TO and attend a lot of events, so I could make that happen. So that's my goal. That actually brings up
kind of the point of the awards is to really try and encourage people to play. I've had a handful of requests over the years for some of these awards are too hard to get, and you should make them easier. Like, Well, no. That's the point. They should be hard because it's supposed to make you want to play more. And reducing the number of games that people have to play to get awards kind of defeats the purpose, because aren't we all here to play games? So it's really supposed to be encouraging people to play more. And we do the enthusiast ones where you're rewarded for playing the same thing a lot. But then we also do the sort of more generalist goals where you can be rewarded for playing everything a little bit. Because I know that some people are interested in different aspects of the game, and I want to make sure that all the different ways that you can play a game can be rewarded in some way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's the Dabbler Awards, I think it's called that in MCP anyway, for playing different affiliations. Yeah, and also we've had some, you've very kindly put in some awards for my events as well. Me and Norbert run the Mutant Weekender events, and there's special awards for that. But we're very careful about, we're very sparing on which of those which of our events get awards on Longshanks. So we've only done 2 so far. Because you're right, it needs to stay special.
Exactly. It's got to stay special. And I really do like adding events with awards. That was a thing that back in the early days was just for things like national championships and the world championship back in when it was only for Guild Ball. And then eventually I realized, well, why does it only have to be those big official events? Because we'd have communities in other countries that didn't get an official national championship who wanted to run their own. And I couldn't think of any reason why not to support that. So that was the first time we expanded, and then started doing other things like for your events and for things like Second Wind and Squad Goals and other big prominent tournaments that I typically like to pick ones that happen yearly, not just a one-off, but something that either it already is or people are trying to make it a yearly schedule. And big events, so it used to be 32. This year I upped it to 64 because I got so many people were interested. And there started getting to be almost too many events that had an award attached. So I had to narrow it a little bit, but that's a good thing in my view.
Yeah, for sure. And they need to stay special, like you say. And they're really cool as well because they link to the event. So you can click on the badge itself. You can link to the event that they want it at and see what they were playing and who else was there. It's really cool. I basically just want to encourage people to people call them silly little badges, and I think they're great. I think they're great to collect, and it's making me play the game differently. And there'll probably be a few people listening to this that are like, yeah, Jamie got quite competitive last year. It's good that he's trying something new this year. And I'm having a great time because I played 50 games with Sentinels and they suck. And I had a great time because I knew that every game I was getting closer and closer to that badge, and it's really fun. So I think I don't necessarily chase rating on Longshanks. Some people do, and I did, and that was fun too. To see myself climb, and I got best X-Men player in London and best X-Men player in a teams event. All these if you filter enough, then you're the best at something. So that's fun. Right. But the badges are great. I think collecting the badges are great, and it kind of I feel rewarded for playing characters that I would never play normally. So I think it's really bringing something to the game, at least for me, and I encourage others to look into it, the same way.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you get something out of it. And I know there's lots of other people who chase the badges and chase the awards for the same kind of feeling.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. And it's encouraging you to play the game in a different way, which I think is really good, because the game's fun and it gives you more ways to play it. So that's really cool. So if you're interested in that, like I say, go and have a look at badges. Have a look at my profile on there if you want and see what badges I've got. And go to user requests and vote for sub-faction badges, because then we get more and everyone can play all the wacky leaders like Hulkbuster that no one normally plays.
Yeah, that's the most obvious benefit to your request, in my opinion, is getting people to play things like Cyclops and Hulkbuster and all the other third tier leaders that people just don't really play.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm a big X-Men fan, but I will never be the best X-Men player. I will never get that badge for best X-Men because there's 10 people that are way better than me and have been playing games for years, and this is my first game. So I will never get that badge, but I could maybe go for the Cyclops one because people don't like him as much. So I think all this badge chasing stuff just adds a new dimension. And I'm playing Weapon X right now, who I would never ever play otherwise, but it's just for that badge, and it's great. It's giving me something else to do in the game,
Yeah, good.
Cool. So, go to user requests, vote for sub-faction badges, get some more badges. I want to talk about ranked and casual games. So not many people know this, but you can log casual games on Longshanks, right?
That's right.
It's the cool little the beer icon, which I like because it makes me think of beer and pretzels. So what exactly is that for? What does that do?
That's exactly where it comes from. Yeah, it's really just, and that was a request years ago. People wanted to be able to record their casual games. Mostly, it came from people who, whenever they played a game at weekly game nights or just random pickup matches at conventions or something like that, they would log them in a spreadsheet. And I knew several people who did that, and they had this gigantic spreadsheet of all the games they'd ever played. And I thought, well, I've already developed a system that means we don't ever have to use spreadsheets again at big tournaments. Why not expand it so that people don't have to use spreadsheets at all? And so I added the ability to just submit a game. And basically what it does is it looks just like the game reporting window that you'd see at an event, but the game isn't attached to an event. So you can pick your opponent, you pick all the other stats or the parts of the game that you would normally report, and it just sits on your profile. And then the one nice thing about it is that it gets included in all of your stats. So if you look at things like your win rate for a faction, you can see not just the games that you played at rated tournaments, but every game that you've played. So if you play X-Force all the time at weekly game night, but that's for some reason not the thing you bring to tournaments, you can still see some record of how you do with that affiliation. So I like that about it. It also contributes to not all, but many of the badges of awards. So the things like we're talking about, where you can get rewarded for playing a certain number of games in an affiliation. They count towards those. So if you play a lot of Sentinels games at game night because you think it's fun, you can get credit for that, and you can get an award just for doing it a bunch, even if you're not very good at it. And even if you don't bring it to rated tournaments.
Yeah, great. And so that doesn't have an effect on the rating itself? It just counts the game?
Correct. So it counts toward basically the rule of thumb is all of the badges that don't rely on number of wins count your casual games. And if it's something that counts how often you're winning, so things like best in affiliation or your actual player rating, things like that don't count casual games. They also don't count unrated tournaments. So it essentially works the same way as unrated games from unrated tournaments, where you get credit for having played the game, but it doesn't count toward your rating as a player.
Got it. Great. So, more incentive to badge hunt then for me, if I can convince people to put their casual games in with me. It's usually quite easy because I'm playing Sentinels Weapon X, so it's just free wins for them. So it's usually quite easy for me to convince them to track it. I mean, a few of us in London especially are all subscribed to Longshanks because we love the extra bit of stats that it gets us. We find it really interesting, especially, like I say, on the train ride back from an event, we all go through the stats on Longshanks and look at all the numbers. So do you want to give us a quick kind of summary of what subscribing to Longshanks gets you?
Sure. So we have 3 subscriber levels, and I'm going to give it to you in dollars, which will matter for some of your people and some not. But it's $3 a month, $5 a month, and $10 a month, and they all give slightly different things. The $3 and the $5 tier give mostly the same benefits. The difference is that the $3 gives you all the benefits for one game system. If you go up to $5, you get it for every game system. So that means if you play multiple games, or if you just like to follow multiple games, you don't have to pick one of them. You can get all the extra stats and things like that for every game. The $5 does get you a few extra features. Most of them are things that are good for people running events. And then $10 gets a couple more things, which again are generally things that are better for people running events. Most of the stuff that just players care about is in the $3 and $5 tier. So what that stuff is the biggest thing is additional stats. So if you go to either the stats panel on an event or to the main statistics page, you can see way more detail if you're a subscriber. So things like, one of my favorite examples is what I call the Ghost Deer Index, which is named after the guy who asked for it. And it takes all of the number of games and the win rate of each affiliation, or whatever the factions are in a game you're looking at, and it plots them on a graph. So we already have the list, and everybody can see the list of which affiliation is on top and which one's on the bottom, and how many games they've all played and things like that. But I know a lot of people are visual learners, and so this just puts them on a graph, and it makes it really easy to see if affiliations or factions or whatever are overperforming or underperforming. So it's a really nice snapshot of the kind of how things are running in the game right now. But also things like you can click on more information for any affiliation, and then you can see stats on its win rate versus each other affiliation. And you can see stats on the affiliation leader's win rate versus other affiliations. And so basically it lets you drill down deeper into whatever thing it is that you're interested in.
Yeah, nice. It's super interesting. It's really fun, and again, it's great for those kind of sweaty competitive players that want to see their rating go up and want to see how it is stacked against other people. But also, it's just fun to see, like, oh, I've played 50 games with Sentinels and I've only won 10. That's interesting. It's good. It's cool. It's definitely worth doing.
Right. For individuals, one of the perks is if you look at your player profile, you can see your player rating and your number of wins, losses, and draws. Total. If you're a subscriber, you can see that broken down through all the factions or affiliations in MCP. Yeah. So you can see what your rating is in each affiliation, how many games you've played, won, lost, draw, in not just in general, but in each affiliation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. And there's a new thing, actually, which just pops into my mind, where you can see like your past games against a player, right?
Oh, yeah, the rivalry panel.
Yeah, the rivalry panel. That's really cool. How do we find that? Is it only in events or?
No, so that's if you look at somebody's player profile, and if you have ever played a game against them and you're a subscriber, then the rivalry panel will show up. So if you click on that, it'll show you a breakdown of how many games you've won and lost versus that player. And then it'll list, I think there's a limit on how many it shows all at once, but it'll show you the first 5 games or something like that. That one's really fun. There was a feature like that many years ago, and the way we changed how things are recorded when the system expanded to multiple game systems didn't really allow it to continue. So I discontinued it for a long time, and people asked for it back, and so now it's there again. So yeah, the rivalry panel, it's pretty fun, especially if you got an active local community. You can see how often you've played against a certain person. Maybe you're getting ready for a tournament that you're both going to, and you want to see who's going to do better. But saying, oh, I've played against this person 5 times in the past, and we're 3-2 or something like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love that. It's really fun. Yeah, that's great. That's a great new feature, I think, that kind of just popped into my head. And there's also, it's worth mentioning, there's friend requests, right? There's friending on Longshanks, and if you are friends with people, I think it's capped at a certain number, right? Friends?
Up to 10.
Up to 10. Then if the TO chooses, which most of the time they do, in round 1, they'll turn on friendly fire, so you won't be paired against your friends. So it's good for when you're traveling to tournaments. If you've gone all the way to Paris, you don't want to play your buddy from London in round 1. Right. So that's really cool. It's really great. But it also means that Pat Dunford has nothing but friend requests on his Longshanks because everyone's trying to dodge him, and he won't accept any of them. So yeah, but that's pretty cool. That's a nice feature because there's nothing worse than being in a car with Norbert for 6 hours and then playing him round 1. So yes, I'm appreciative of that.
That's exactly the function of that, of the friend request is, you don't want to drive 4 hours with your buddy from back home and then play them round 1. That's the worst.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want to play them in the final.
Right.
So yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that's all my questions, man. Is there anything you wanted to shout out about in particular for Longshanks?
I don't have a ton to shout out about, but we've already talked about user requests. I mean, please, if you've got any ideas or things you want to see different or things that you think could work better, please send in a user request or send an email if it's something specific about your profile or your event or something like that. But if you think it's a system-wide, something that might be useful for everybody, please submit a user request. I check them every couple of days for new ones, and I basically, if you look at that page and you look at the kind of ranks top to bottom based on how many people have voted for them and how many people have voted yes, and that's how I work. So when I go to make changes to the site or to add features, it's not exactly the first one gets added first, but it's definitely the ones near the top get added first. Nice. So please do submit user requests, vote on them. That helps me a ton. If you have ideas for new game systems that you would like to see added, please do request them and get all your friends who play that game system to to vote for that request. I definitely want the system to support lots of different games, and especially ones that people play a lot. That kind of covers it.
Yeah, cool.
If there's ever anything that people don't understand or don't, if they've got questions about how things work, if there's certain podcasts who don't like how the ranking system works, they can ask me for how or tips or whatever. That's no shade on anybody, but
I don't know what you're talking about. This was a completely unprompted episode where I want to talk about how much I like Longshanks and how much I think you're doing for the community and the game. I think MCP is a much better game because of the work you're doing. And I don't think anyone's ever said anything bad about it. Probably.
But yeah, I'm always happy to talk either on a show like this or find me on Discord and send me messages. You can send me angry messages about how you don't think the math is good, and I'll use my
I've
PhD
done it loads. I've sent you loads of angry messages. Yeah, I want a Cyclops badge, damn it. And I've been DMing you for a year. Now I found user requests. Now I'm using this podcast to promote my user request. So go and vote for it, people. I want that Cyclops badge. That's all I care about. I won't even get it now. I couldn't get best in affiliation for Sentinels. It required too many wins. I just gave up.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Sam. It means a lot. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for having me.